Assalamu alaikum students, and welcome to the final lecture of the course of entrepreneurship. Today we are going to review the contents that we tried to cover during this course. The lecture number 1 encompassed the introduction to the course, whereby we delineated the various topics that were to be covered during this course. In lecture number 2, our focus was on understanding the very fundamental concept of entrepreneurship. We defined entrepreneurship. We tried to identify entrepreneur as an individual who is ready to assume risk in face of uncertainty and with hope that he would make some profit and achieve growth by assembling necessary resources to exploit certain opportunity. Then we went ahead and tried to understand the characteristics that would usually be constituting an entrepreneur's personality. And it included, for example, desire for utmost responsibility. It also included preference for moderate risk. And we were we had a thorough discussion of whether it was an appetite for high risk, low risk, or a moderate risk. We also saw that entrepreneurs are the individuals who tend to be very confident, and they are individuals who are not merely satisfied by only one success. Some of them turn out to be serial entrepreneurs, whereby they keep switching to new industries, to new businesses, in order to prove to themselves and to the society that they are smart enough to establish themselves in any realm. Now, next lecture, that being the lecture number 3, we tried understanding the benefits associated with entrepreneurship. We talked about creating our own destiny, the opportunity to architect where we want to be and what we want to achieve. We also saw entrepreneurship as an opportunity for creating difference in the life of individuals, or in the life of the clients, of the customers. We also saw that entrepreneurship could be a mean to reach one's full potential. Secondly, we looked at the various drawbacks of entrepreneurship. One of the major drawbacks that we looked into was the uncertainty of income. Secondly, we also saw that entrepreneurship could be stress-inducing. Apart from that, one could be engaged in very long hours of working to make his venture successful. And the worst part was the discouragement that one may expect from his peer group or the family. Then we tried exploring the various forces that are driving the growth of entrepreneurship in today's world. One of them was the shift towards service economy. Another important factor was the introduction of technology that is helping common individuals to compete with large giants. Entrepreneurs are being treated as heroes, which encourages other viewers to be or to become entrepreneurs. Business education is now readily and abundantly available, be it through formal education or be it through the various online and offline sources. So there are various factors that are driving the growth of entrepreneurship in today's world. In lecture number 4, we tried to understand various groups that are represented in entrepreneurs. We started by highlighting young entrepreneurs. Then we talked about women entrepreneurs, whose number is on the rise in Pakistan in particular. We talked about minority entrepreneurs, individuals from minority who otherwise are facing glass ceiling, as well as lack of or having lesser education leaves them with less alternate opportunities available. Another category that we discussed was the immigrant entrepreneurs, the individuals who are learned, who are well versed with English linguistics or the relevant language skills, who are experienced and who immigrate to new countries, and when they get there, they may not necessarily find the great career paths they have been yearning for. So given they are knowledgeable, given they are educated, given that they are experienced, given that they have got language grip as well, entrepreneurship comes as a readily available alternate choice. Then we also talked about two interesting groups. One was the corporate cast-off, and the other one was corporate dropouts. For cast-offs, we saw that these would be the individuals who were fired by the organization due to possibly economic distress, while corporate dropouts would be the individuals who would voluntarily resign from their jobs in order to become entrepreneurs. Another category that was represented in this topic was co-preneurs, the couples working together to make business run successfully. And we were very clear on this, that usually couples tend to, each individual in the couple tends to come up with complementary skills and knowledge that helps in running the business. Moving on to lecture number 5, we had the opportunity to listen to Dr. Anil Salman, who gave a brilliant talk to motivate us to consider entrepreneurship as a career choice. In lecture number 6, we tried to explore various reasons which cause the businesses to fail. To remind you a few, one was the management mistakes. Then we talked about the lack of experience of entrepreneurs that lead to the demise of their businesses. Lack of financial knowledge and poor financial control was yet another reason. Weak marketing efforts, poor choice of location, incorrect pricing, inadequate inventory control were among the reasons that could possibly cause business failures. Our next topic was avoiding the pitfalls of small business failure. And we understood that the very fundamental knowledge of the particular business that we want to get into is a prerequisite before jumping into that business. The basic knowledge of finances, the basic knowledge of strategy, understanding of management, these all are important in order to avoid business failures. And one thing that we inferred from this whole discussion was that entrepreneurs tend to fail intelligently. And every time they fail, they would reflect. They would reflect and try to point out the reasons for which they could not succeed in their previous venture and would try to avoid those mistakes in future. This was followed by lecture number 7, in which we started a new topic that was related to creativity, innovation, and entrepreneurship. We saw that creativity and innovation are two very interconnected concepts, whereby creativity is the ability to think something new, while innovation is the ability to do something new. And these two are prerequisites of coming up with good entrepreneurial ideas. Then we went ahead to understand the very important topic of paradigm. And if you could recall, we found out that paradigms are basically sets of preconceived ideas about anything, any object, any concept. And while paradigms are important to have the general understanding of life, of the affairs around, yet it could possibly a constraining factor. It could possibly be a constraining factor that limits the ability of one's being creative. Then we explored various barriers to creativity. One of them was being over-focused on logical, always looking for that one right answer. Another reason was one not believing himself to be creative, being over-specialized, and there were a few more that we had discussed thoroughly. And this was followed by a discussion on how to spur our imagination in order to be more creative. Our next topic was enhancement of organizational creativity in an organization. So even if we are working as an entrepreneur and we have got employees working for us, and we want our organization to be known for its creative ideas, to be known for its innovative products and services, or even if we work as a manager somewhere and we want to have that recognition of an organization to be known for its creativity and innovation, we explored various suggestions as to how one could enhance organizational creativity potential. And we talked about embracing creativity as the core element of strategy. We also talked about training our employees to start viewing problems as challenges. And there were a few more options that were discussed thoroughly. This was followed by lecture number 9, in which we started by exploring the tips to enhance an individual's creativity. As of if I or you wish to enhance our creative potential, what could be the possible steps that could be taken? And this was followed by a thorough discussion on various creativity techniques that could be helpful in order to be more creative. The techniques that we had discussed included brainstorming, mind mapping, rapid prototyping, mix and match, and attribute listing chart. I would like to review mix and match since it may not necessarily be available in journal literature. Mix and match was basically a concept that was that has been named by me, but it was an exercise that Thomas Edison used to do, and he would ask the internees to go to market and fetch any random set of products, and then he would divide those products into 2 sets and ask the internee to match one product of one group to the products of other group one by one, with an objective to come up with a new product and a set of new products that are basically combining the attributes of two different products. Then we moved upon to lecture number 10, in which we try to distinguish different forms of innovation and try to understand innovation in more depth. When it came to the different forms of innovation, so we found out that there are basically three major forms of innovation. The first one being product innovation, the second one was service innovation, and last one was process innovation. Product innovation is the most visible one. Service innovation is something that could be helpful to revolutionize industries, and it can shake up new business models. And process innovation, that is usually the least to be observed but has got great potential to transform life of the customers. When it comes to the different types of innovation, we found out that there are four types. One being incremental innovation, the second one being radical innovation, modular innovation, and architectural innovation. This was followed by lecture number 11 that basically covered the concept of protecting our ideas. So if one is being creative, one has been successfully been innovative, so how does he protect his idea? So we explored in very detail that how governments help to incentivize individuals and organizations to keep on to keep on being creative and innovative by giving them their ideas and products certain protections. So we explored the concepts of patents and the steps that are required to get a patent registered. We also understood the benefits of obtaining patents and associated concepts of trademark and copyrights were thoroughly discussed. One of the bottom lines of this lecture was that one needs to weigh the benefits or the financial worth of one's creativity and innovative product versus the cost one may have to incur to go to litigation if someone copies his idea. So there has to be a trade-off. In lecture number 12, we watched a very interesting documentary of Bill Gates, and it encompassed his whole life, how he had started Microsoft and how he went upon in a fight with the government and ultimately turning to philanthropy, and whereby Melinda Gates and Bill Gates are working together to curb malaria and other diseases in the world. From lecture 13, our focus came on the strategy end of the business. We started that by exploring various types of capital and then defined what strategic management was. It was followed by understanding the concept of, and a very important concept of competitive advantage, which is the aggregate of factors that help business stand apart from its competitors. And a relevant concept was of core competencies, which would be a set of capabilities developed by the business to vault past its competitors. Then we explored the various steps that are involved in strategic management and tried understanding vision and mission statement. And we also tried to connect the concepts of competitive advantage, core competency with vision and mission statement. This was followed by start of discussion on SWOT analysis, that is strength, weaknesses, opportunities and threats. Strengths being the positive points, internal points of an organization or of an entity, weakness being the negative points of that, internal points of that or factors of that entity. Opportunities are the positive external factors and threats are the negative external factors. In lecture number 14, we concluded opportunities and threats, which are the components of SWOT analysis, and this was followed by a very detailed discussion on the PASTEL analysis, which is basically an abbreviation of political, economic, social, technological, legal, and environmental factors. And we discussed in details that how each one of them may influence the businesses directly or indirectly. In lecture number 15, we try to understand how to analyze the competitors and what could be the ethical ways to get and gain information about your competitors. We also tried to understand the difference between goals and objectives and formulation of strategies, whereby we talked about 3 generic options of strategy, one being the cost leadership, second one being the differentiation, and third one was focus strategy. This was followed by how to translate strategies into action plans, and last but not the least, how to establish controls. As of these will be the checkpoints whereby we'll be able to gauge whether whatever we have strategized, if it is actually bearing the right fruits or not. So if the results are not okay, in that case we'll have to take corrective measures as the result of the controls that have been established. In lecture number 16, there were 2 topics that were covered. The first one was the TOES matrix, which is kind of an extension of SWOT analysis. In TOES matrix, based upon SWOT, we explored that and discussed that. We come up with more relevant strategies that are derived by various combinations of the factor of SWOT. For instance, we talked about the combination of SOs, strengths and opportunities, as of how to use our internal strengths to capitalize upon the external opportunities that are available in the market. Then we talked about WO strategies, as of weaknesses and opportunities. How could we utilize external opportunities to minimize the impact of internal weaknesses? Then another quadrant was detailing the various possibilities that could be generated by focusing upon utilizing our internal strengths to exploit external opportunities that are available. And last but not the least was the WT quadrant, whereby we would come up with strategic options which would help us minimize weaknesses and threats at the same time. The next topic that we discussed in lecture 16 was the feasibility analysis, and we had discussed that instead of going for a full thorough plan, entrepreneurs first tend to go for this litmus test kind of feasibility analysis, in which they try to explore 3 major areas. First of all, they like to see if the industry and the market that they want to play in is feasible or not. Secondly, they would like to know whether the product that they wish to deal in, if that is feasible for that market or not. And last but not the least, we talked about financial feasibility, as of if a certain investment is made, what is the expected return that could be earned upon that particular investment. In order to explore the attractiveness of market and industry, we talked about Porter 5 forces that explored the power of substitutes, suppliers, buyers, new entrants, and the rivalry among the market participants. In lecture number 17, we had a very interesting discussions on various forms of businesses that are available for the entrepreneurs. So irrespective of what business the entrepreneurs are, they have to get that thing legally recognized by the state, and for that they have a choice to go for any of the options that are mentioned here, that being the sole proprietorship, partnership, and the corporation. But it's not that simple. Rather, we explored that there are various considerations that have to be dealt with before making that decision. For instance, each one of them carries different cost of formation. The managerial authority available in each of the options is different. The liability exposure is different for each one of them. The tax consideration are different for each one of them. The capital that could be raised, the potential of raising capital is different for each one of them. And for the corporations, we further dwelled and explored two more options, that being the private limited firms and the public limited firms. In lecture 18, we discussed a very interesting and a very happening concept of franchising. And we explored and understood that in a franchising arrangement, there are basically two entities involved, one being the franchisor and the other one being the franchisee. The franchisor lets the franchisee use its brand name, its products, and its business model, against which franchisee agrees to pay royalty and the basic fee that is required for getting a franchise. This was followed by discussion of the benefits and drawbacks associated with franchising. One of the major benefit was training that usually the franchises would give to the franchisee. Brand appeal is another advantage that one would expect. Standardization of the products, how they are to be made, stored, and delivered, all of these procedures are already very clearly delineated by the franchisor. On the other hand, when it comes to the drawback, the major drawback was the cost of the formation of franchise. Secondly, the ongoing royalty was again something that not every entrepreneur would be comfortable with. There are a few more challenges as well. For instance, franchisees may not be having the freedom to choose their suppliers, and they may be restricted by the franchisors to buy from certain suppliers, which may cost them dearly. And there were a few more as well. Then we discussed the right way to buy a franchise and delineated the major trends that are shaping franchising. We talked about intercept marketing, we talked about piggybacking, the concepts of franchising, and few others as well. This was followed by lecture number 19, which started with the myths and tips about franchising, and then we moved on to the next topic that was related to the finance side of entrepreneurship. We tried to understand the importance of preparing financial plan, and we also tried to comprehend the various mistakes that are done while financial statements are made. And we also tried to understand the basic financial statement along break-even analysis or chart. Lecture number 20 basically explained the various finance sources or the options that are available with the entrepreneurs. For instance, in this lecture we tried to explore the difference between fixed working and growth capital. We tried to understand the difference between equity and debt, and then went on to explore various sources of debt and equity. Talking about equity capital, we talked about the advantages and disadvantages associated with personal savings, friends and relatives, angels, partners, corporations, venture capital, and public stock offering. And coming to the debt side, we explored various sources of debt and explained its relative advantages and disadvantages. From lecture 21, our focus came on the marketing end of entrepreneurship. We tried understanding the definition of marketing, followed by the 4 P's of marketing, that being the product, price, promotion and placement, and what aspect of these 4 elements are relevant in any entrepreneurial venture. It was followed by a discussion on marketing wheel of fortune that actually helps us understand the overall process of marketing for any business. Lecture number 22 started with the exploration of how small business marketing is different from larger corporations and what are the generic advantages that are available with small businesses that can be exploited by the entrepreneurs. Then we talked about customer sensitivity. There were 4 different levels on which you can gauge various businesses as of on what sensitivity level they are maintaining and operating. We thoroughly talked about the guerrilla marketing, and it was followed by discussion on development of competitive advantage through focusing on the customer and quality. In lecture number 23, we continued that discussion of development of competitive advantage, but this time our focus was on convenience, innovation, service and speed. Another topic that was discussed in lecture number 23 was understanding the advantages and disadvantages of buying an existing business instead of starting one from the scratch. We understood various steps that were involved and critical areas of analysis of existing business. Lecture number 24 had a documentary on Steve Jobs, the entrepreneur behind Apple, and we had a good look on the challenges that he had to face in his life and how he was able to cater them very successfully. In lecture number 25, we explored the concept of corporate entrepreneurship, which is also called entrepreneurship, as of the individuals who are creative, who are innovative, but instead of starting their own businesses, they give those ideas to their employing firms, and with the hope that those firms will take upon those ideas, translate them into real life products and services, and grow the firm even further. So we explored the types of corporate entrepreneurship, how the entrepreneurs are compensated, what are the possible barriers, advantages, disadvantages, how the firms can support entrepreneurs, and the 10 commandments of entrepreneurship. Lecture number 26 had altogether a different flair. In this lecture, we explored the concept of stakeholder management. The first step that was discussed in this lecture was how to identify various stakeholders. The second step was trying to come up with the analysis as of what kind of stakes, what type of stake one holds in the organization. The third step was to map various stakeholders based upon their power that they may exert and the interest that they may have in the organization on the power interest grid that contained 4 quadrants. And the last step was that what strategies would be used in order to cater each of the stakeholder in the relevant quadrant. In lecture number 27, we tried to cover 2 topics. The first one was related to influencing and bargaining. Now this is a skill that is required by everybody, and particularly entrepreneurs tend to use it every now and then. So we looked at various strategies and how the influencing can be done and how the bargaining is done. This was followed by a discussion on the social entrepreneurship, and we tried to understand the key attributes of social enterprise, what are its characteristics, and how do these organizations differ from the other organizations. In lecture number 28, we covered the topic of elevator pitch, as of how would one try to sell his ideas to the potential investors. We saw their must-haves and cautions. We explored various elements of a pitch with example, and it was followed by a video from a program called Dragon Den, whereby the potential entrepreneurs tend to give presentations or pitches of their business ideas in front of real life business tycoons who would reflect upon those ideas, and it generated good discussion in the class as well. In lecture number 29, we had presentations by various groups of the students with the concept product that they have come up with, and they came up with real good prototypes as well. Lecture number 30 encompassed the business plan, and we tried to understand the elements of business plan and what would the potential reader look in for in that particular plan. We also explored the business plan presentation and its format as well. This was followed by lecture number 31, which contained a video from a program called Undercover Boss, where we saw an entrepreneur interacting with his first line employees, trying to understand the problems they were facing and taking corrective measures. And after lecture number 31, here we are, lecture number 32, the final concluding lecture. It has been an amazing journey with you guys, one of my best ever experiences in teaching, and I wish you great success with your degree program, that being the biosciences program. But alongside, I'm also hopeful that with the conclusion and understanding of this course, you would consider entrepreneurship as a choice of your career. Thank you very much.